Today is November 3rd, 2010, and I am interviewing Bret A. Bret is 46 years old. He was born on December 20th, 1964. My name is Tawsen Dice, and I will be the interviewer. Bret is my uncle. Could you state for the recording what branch of service you served in?
United States Army.
What was your final rank?
Staff Sergeant.
How many years were you in the service?
20 years.
What were you doing before you enlisted?
I was going to high school, and I had worked at Long John Silver's while I was in high school also.
Did anyone else in your family serve in the military?
Yes, my dad served in the Army in Vietnam, and my brother served in the Army over in Germany about the same time I went to Germany one time.
Why did you choose the Army?
My dad's war stories. He told me Vietnam war stories, and it kind of made me want to join the Army.
Tell me about basic training, the food, PT.
Actually, the food was okay. It wasn't the greatest, but the funniest thing about the food is you only had like 5 minutes to eat. I mean, they have to push a lot of soldiers through a small mess hall. So you had if you weren't chewing or swallowing, they made you get up and leave. So if you talked in the mess hall, you had your mouth open and you didn't have food in it, so you left. You were there to eat only, not to talk. If you talked, you had to get up and leave. And in basic training, I had wrestled at Peru High School, and I played football at Peru High School, and I thought I was in shape, I thought I was pretty physical, and then I got to basic training, and they worked you very hard physically, and I wasn't in shape as much as I thought I was. I got there quick, and that's what they try to do, get you as healthy and physically fit as possible. And there's no sodas. When you get there, you won't be drinking soda or any of this other stuff. No ice cream, no candy. You're not allowed that in basic training. They really get you physically healthy, and you eat good food. I mean, I guess it's okay food, but you eat a balanced meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They make sure of it. And besides the physical part, basic training made me grow up quite a bit, because I guess I wasn't very mature when I joined, and it made me grow up and realize, what a little more life was about.
What kind of training did you have?
Well, I joined to be in the infantry, like my dad was in the infantry, and I joined, and I had weapons training on all kinds of weapons, and German weapons too, and Russian weapons. You train on all kinds of weapons when you're in the infantry, and you learn how to put in landmines, take landmines out. I went to demolition schools to learn to blow up bridges and other stuff, but when we were in our training, we only were allowed a little piece of C4 to use and blow up some stuff, and then some dynamite to blow up some stuff. That was pretty fun. And then I took call it small arms maintenance. You'll learn to fix weapons that are broken. I took that training, and then air assault training, where I went to Fort Campbell, and they taught you how to rappel out of a helicopter on a rope, and that was real fun. And I did real good on all my training in the military. I was always top of my class. I really liked it. And the infantry training sent me to anti-tank training school, and I learned to fire this missile. It's about that big around. It's a Dragon missile, and after you fire that missile, it's awesome. The fire rolls down your back. I mean, it's just neat to fire, but you got to keep on target. It was a wire guided one back then, so it was wire guided, so you had to keep on target the whole time while this fire was rolling down your back, and you felt the heat from it. It was really cool. And you fire, they used to be called laws, light, I can't remember what law stands for. Anyhow, it was called a law. They extended a rocket and you fired that, and it was a little smaller. It's for light vehicles where you'd use that against. And 50 cal, 60 machine gun, a lot of those weapons. I fired the best out of the 50 cal in my battalion, and I got an award for it, but I was really good with machine guns. And I don't know, a lot of weapons training and a lot of stuff like that. And then I had a little break in service where I decided to get out of the service, and I came back here to Peru, couldn't find a decent job, and so I rejoined the military, and they made me a medic. They wanted me to become a medic, so I became a combat medic. So I was still with the infantry, I was just their medic guy. And they sent me to EMT school, and I learned all kinds of ways to take care of casualties, you know, people that got hurt. And you worked with doctors, and you learn a lot more than EMTs actually. And you learn how to stitch up people, and whatever the doctor will let you do, he'll train you to do it and let you do it. It was really good. And then after being in for a while being a medic, they sent me to like a paramedic school. We not licensed as a paramedic, we were licensed EMTs. But they send you like paramedic school, and you learn all kinds of medications and all kinds of really neat stuff. And that was awesome training.
What wars have you served in?
I was in Bosnia first, I guess, and that was over in former Yugoslavia. And then that was 6 months, and it was a peacekeeping mission. So we just went over there and tried to keep the two different kinds of people from fighting. And same thing as Kosovo. When we went into Kosovo, we just quiet things down and keep them from fighting amongst each other. And then my last my last combat was Iraq. I went there when it first kicked off, and after 9/11 we went over there, and that was a different story, and it was a year long.
Can you tell us about the different places the military has sent you?
Oh, okay. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia to do my infantry training, basic training. And then they stationed me there in Georgia at Fort Stewart, Georgia. And that's where I really fell in love with the Army, Fort Stewart, Georgia. And I did 2 years there, and they sent me to Germany for 3 years, Mainz, Germany, and did 3 years there. And then I got out of the service for a while, and I came back to Peru, and a couple years later I joined again, and I went to medic school down in Fort Sam Houston. It's in San Antonio, Texas, and I did my medic school, and then they sent me back to Germany, and I was stationed in Giebelstadt Air Base in Wurzburg, or close to Wurzburg. And then after leaving Giebelstadt, I went to Fort Hood, Texas, and that's in Killeen, Texas, and I trained there for a couple years. And then they sent me back to Germany, to Schweinfurt, Germany, and when I got to Schweinfurt, Germany, I think I was there maybe 2 days in processing and stuff, and the unit had left for Bosnia. Like the second day I got there, they left for Bosnia, so they hurried up and got me all my gear, and I was about a week after they got there. I got there a week later to Bosnia, and we did the Bosnia. And then I came back after 6 months in Bosnia. Came back to Schweinfurt, Germany, and I stayed there for almost a year maybe, and then we moved to Kosovo, or we deployed to Kosovo, and Kosovo was 6 months long, and I came back to Germany, was there a little bit longer, and then they sent me back to Fort Hood, and Fort Hood, I was there almost a year, and then after 9/11 they sent me over to Iraq, and after I got back from Iraq, they sent me to San Antonio, Texas to teach the new medics coming in, which I didn't end up teaching down there. I worked in a warehouse where I issued the new soldiers' equipment, the new medics, so any of the equipment they needed to train with, I issued it to them. And after San Antonio, Texas, I had my 20 years in and I retired and came back to Peru because that's where my family is.
What kind of activities did you do for fun or was that relaxation?
While I was in the service, we had a lot of barbecues. We went to the lake. We played volleyball at the lake after duty hours or on the weekends. And then I still have barbecues and I like volleyball. But when we was over in Bosnia, we was living in a tent. But besides next to our aid station, we had horseshoe pits set up. And we play horseshoes on our spare time. And then I lifted a lot of weights in Bosnia too. I was at the gym twice a day for a couple hours each time. But it just, we played cards, you know, stuff like that. And in Kosovo, we was real busy and there wasn't as much free time because when we rolled into Kosovo, there wasn't no bases set up. So we had to set the base up, had to set all the equipment up, and the hill we'd actually set up on was just a wheat field. I mean, one day it's a wheat field when we rolled in, and about a month later it's a huge camp. I mean, it was awesome with helicopters flying in and out of it and everything. I mean, it just went from nothing to a base camp. And then I got sent downtown to Vatina in Kosovo, and I was in an old jail. You know, with the 82nd Airborne, they'd secured a little spot downtown so we could live down there closer to the locals and keep them from fighting among each other. And we played a lot of cards and you read a little bit when I was down there. You couldn't really go outside when you're in the city because it's dangerous. And then when I was in Iraq, after we got set up there, we was in Tikrit, Iraq. We on an airfield, we set up a little volleyball net. You know, this after we get the base camp set up. A month or two later, we set up the volleyball net with a chicken wire and some poles we found, and we played volleyball over the chicken wire. But that was our best source of entertainment. And every night after lunch, we'd go out and play a couple games of volleyball. But, I mean, we just play a lot of cards, tell jokes. I mean, it's just something to do, you know. We'll keep busy.
How did you stay in touch with those back home?
When I was in Bosnia, we had the satellite phones, and we could call and talk pretty much, 5 minutes a week or so. And then write letters and stuff because you only get to talk to one person. I usually called my mom, and you write letters to the other people you wanted to talk to. And then when we went to Iraq, we didn't see a satellite phone for a couple months. You know, they didn't get us one, or we didn't have one. And then when we got one, we'd you only get 5 minutes to talk to whoever, so I called my wife and I talked to her for 5 minutes. Actually, she talked to me for 5 minutes. I didn't get to say much, but anyway, you know, after not hearing from anybody for 2 months, you know, it was a relief to finally get to call home. And by the time I left Iraq, after being there a year, they got internet, so you could eat, you know, internet, and you could talk, and stuff through the internet and send letters through the internet, which was real nice. But
how did these places from your friendships?
Excuse me, say that.
Say that louder.
How did these places from your friendship form from?
Oh, I think every place I've been, the military's one big family, and you make friends all over the place, and you keep in touch with your tight ones, or all of them sometimes. I mean, I meet people different places all the time now that I've served with in the military. 20 years of it's a lot of friends you make. I mean, I got friends from almost in every state, probably more, than every state. But I keep in contact with them, email them, talk to them on the phone, they call. I mean, once you've been through rough spots, I think the ones you go to combat with or into even peacekeeping missions with, and you spend really rough time with, those are your closest, even. And I still got one of my best friends is down in southern Indiana. He was a mechanic and I was a medic, but we became really good friends over in Bosnia. And then we went to Kosovo together. And then we went to Iraq. Oh, well, he was in Kuwait. He never went into Iraq. He decided to get out of the service. But I mean, we're still very close friends.
Did you have much interactions with local people?
Yes, yes, we did. I'll tell you about this one in Iraq. We had went down into Crit, to a small town, to buy ice, because the bottled water we were drinking was like 120 degrees. I mean, that's air temperature was 120, so you're drinking hot water. And we found out through some of the infantry guys that they had blocks of ice you could buy, so we'd go down there and buy them. And you have to deal with the locals, and it's like going to a flea market or a garage sale or something. You got to bargain with them. They want that, and don't ever give them their asking price. You just bargain and argue till you get your way, and you got to be safe about it, though. You got to make sure everybody that goes with you is watching the perimeter to make sure no bad guys are coming or nothing's going to happen. And one time we went down there to buy this ice, and we just get there and we start talking to them, and we're buying stuff, and this little 8 or 9 year old boy runs up to me, and he says, "Go GI, go," And I don't know if anything bad was going to happen, but I couldn't take a chance with all my soldiers out there. So I yelled at him, I said, "Get on the trucks now." And we all jumped in the trucks and left. And my soldiers were a little unhappy that they didn't get their ice and they didn't get that stuff, but we were all safe and we got away from there. And I don't know if that kid was warning us about something, but I didn't care. We got out of there with our lives, and that was good.
When returning home, what kind of reception did you have?
Yeah. We flew into Bangor, Maine, coming back from Iraq. And we flew in about 2 o'clock in the morning. And you would think at 2 o'clock in the morning the airport would be empty, right? There's like 50 to 100 people there. Handing us cell phones to call home and thanking us. It was awesome. It was awesome to know somebody cared. And then we were there a couple of hours layover talking to these people, and then they we flew into Fort Hood, Texas, where all our families were in this gym, and we had a little formation, a little short ceremony, because we all wanted to see our families. And then they released us, to see our families. And Bret and Drew, my two sons, had drove down, and my wife was there, and I got to spend time with her. It was really nice.
How hard was it to return to civilian life?
It was a little difficult. We kind of lived on the desert, and my platoon didn't have tents, so we lived underneath camouflage nets. And camouflage nets have holes in them, and they're tattered. And anyway, we lived on the desert and the windstorms or the sandstorms would come and blow. And anyway, there's no 7-Eleven, no gas station to go get a Coke. There's no little stores you can go. I mean, you're just on a base camp. The base camp's got to be nice. Later on, we got buildings and stuff, but then coming back, you want to go eat fast food or, get a burger from somewhere. And a lot of us got sick eating fast food when we came back. We weren't used to that kind of food. And it's neat to go into a store and buy a candy bar. And it's neat to go turn a shower on and have running water, even flushing a toilet. After a year of not flushing a toilet, you didn't flush toilets because we did. There was no flushing toilets. There just wasn't any there. So it was different. It's a shock. It makes you thankful for being able to go buy a candy bar, flushing the toilet, having running water. Makes you really thankful for those little things, that you miss. And it was a big shock wave for me. And I think it was for everybody. But I think you don't totally ever adjust after being in a place like that. I think you'll never totally be the same person you were. But I think you'll respect a little more running water, fresh water, cold water to drink. A refrigerator to hold stuff cold. The candy and stuff people would send would be melted. I mean, it was really hot there. So sometimes you could tell what it is, sometimes you couldn't if it was melted. It was just, and the adjustment coming back, it's a little rough, and you'll always look over the back of your shoulder, you just always will. You'll look for stuff in the middle of the road. I mean, you're just always going to be on alert after something like that. I mean, I adjusted okay, I guess.
How do you stay in touch with fellow veterans?
The emails, phone calls, now the Facebook things out there so we can see each other's pictures, and it's really easy now to actually keep in touch, It's funny, you talk to them and you've been through all these hard times with them, but you very seldom mention those hard times, You talk about what you're doing now, how you're doing, How's your dog? How's your family? We don't mention the hard times. We'll talk, but nobody ever wants to mention those hard times. Very rare.
How has being in the military affected your life?
I think it made me grow up. Like I said, basic, I really grew up a lot. And it gave me discipline, and it's made me a real strong person, I believe, And being able to see all these other countries, you respect the whole world as a whole better, and people, I told you about, meeting some locals in Iraq, but the German people were real nice, I mean, people all over this country have the same values, the same needs as we do. I think Americans we take it to an extreme with all our technology. I mean, but they want food, they want water, I mean, the basic needs is what everybody you see. It's out there. It's all the same thing. Those are what you need, and you need, all this technology we have really took a little step.
What kind of lessons have you learned?
I think There's good people and bad people, you know. That's the biggest, and teamwork is one of the best things you got going for you, you know. I mean, one person can't stand alone, you know. It's so much easier with a team. I mean, and as a team, somebody's got your back or you got their back. And the biggest lesson, I think, is respect for people. You know, if you respect people, they're going to give you the same respect back most of the time. And I just think it was a good experience for me, and it let me retire at an early age. I don't work, I'm retired, getting my retirement check, and I'm happy with it. And I am 40 something years old. 46. Yeah, and I'm retired, and I'm enjoying it.
Is there any other stories you might want to share?
As a medic in Iraq, I've seen a lot of bad stuff happen, and I don't really want to share any of those stories, but I didn't do so well in high school, right? I kept C most of the time, but in the Army, I excelled at almost every school they sent me to, and then I've got quite a bit of college now, and the Army sent me and paid for that college, and I got it all while I was in the Army, all my college, and I did really well, you know, and anything after that, you know. But it's funny because I never dreamed I'd go to college, because I wasn't I wasn't ever thinking that was my role to go to college, you know, because it just wasn't me. I didn't make the grades in high school, and you know, so I did learn, you know, a lot, and got my college while I was in, and I paid for it.
Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you for doing this interview, and thank you for serving our country.
Well, you're welcome.